Some fathers learn to love their children through bars. When Denzel Washington walked onto the Tonight Show stage with that commanding presence and dignified authority that had made him one of America's most respected actors, nobody expected him to reveal the most heartbreaking chapter of his secret mission. Jimmy Fallon had planned an inspiring interview about Denzel's latest projects and his legendary career achievements. The audience was ready for the powerful insights and moral wisdom that always came with a Denzel Washington appearance. But what Denzel was about to confess would silence Studio 6B and prove that sometimes the most important performances happen not in movie theaters, but in prison, visiting rooms where incarcerated fathers learn how to love their children from behind concrete walls and steel bars. The cameras were rolling, the audience already captivated by Denzel's magnetic gravitas, and then he spoke 16 words that changed everything. Imprisoned fathers don't know how to be good dads from behind bars, and their children pay the price. What came next wasn't just television, it was a revelation about fatherhood, redemption, and the sacred responsibility of teaching men how to maintain paternal bonds, even when their failures have separated them from their children by prison walls. Denzel Washington had always been known for his portrayals of strong father figures and his commitment to mentoring young people. The actor who brought dignity to complex masculine roles, who spoke passionately about the importance of fatherhood and family stability. But what audiences didn't know was that Denzel's understanding of paternal responsibility had been shaped by his own childhood experience with an absent father, and that trauma had awakened a calling to help incarcerated men learn how to maintain meaningful relationships with their children despite being physically separated by the prison system. The Fathers Behind Bars program had begun 9 years earlier, during a period when Denzel was reflecting on his own father's emotional absence and the impact that paternal disconnection had on children's development. The realization that thousands of men were literally imprisoned while their children grew up without fathers had given him profound insight into how incarceration didn't just punish criminals. It punished innocent children who lost their fathers to a system that provided no guidance on maintaining family bonds. When my father was physically present but emotionally absent, it damaged me in ways I didn't understand until I became a father myself, Denzel later explained with obvious pain. But these incarcerated men want to be good fathers to their children. They just don't know how to parent from a prison cell, and their kids are growing up feeling abandoned, even when their fathers are trying to stay connected. 30-second engagement hook point. But what Denzel reveals next about the shocking number of imprisoned fathers he's helped will absolutely stagger you. Make sure you're subscribed because this story gets even more powerful, and you won't believe what these inmates started calling him after he changed their lives. Parental incarceration affects over 2.7 million children in America, with most experiencing father absence during critical developmental years. These children face higher risks of behavioral problems, academic failure, and future criminal involvement, often because their imprisoned fathers lack the skills and resources to maintain meaningful parental relationships from prison. These men made mistakes that put them behind bars, but their children shouldn't be punished for their father's failures, Denzel said with emotion. Most of these fathers grew up without good male role models themselves, so they don't know how to be present parents, even when they want to be. Denzel's first encounter with an imprisoned father had been during a visit to a California state prison where he was researching a potential film role. Marcus, a 28-year-old serving a 5-year sentence for drug charges, had broken down when describing how his 4-year-old daughter no longer recognized his voice during phone calls. Marcus told me that his daughter had started calling her mother's boyfriend Daddy, and that he felt like he was losing her more every day. Denzel remembered with heartbreak. He said he loved his little girl more than anything, but didn't know how to be a father from inside a prison cell. Working with family therapists and prison social workers, Denzel had developed a comprehensive program that taught incarcerated fathers practical skills for maintaining meaningful relationships with their children despite physical separation and the stigma of imprisonment. These sessions aren't just about feeling better, they're about learning specific techniques for long-distance parenting. Denzel emphasized, "We teach men how to write age-appropriate letters, how to make prison phone calls meaningful, how to help with homework over the phone, and how to maintain authority and guidance even when they can't be physically present." Over 9 years, Denzel's Fathers Behind Bars program had reached 117 incarcerated fathers across multiple correctional facilities. Each program was intensive and focused on both parenting skills and emotional healing that allowed men to process their own childhood trauma while learning to break cycles of father absence. I worked with a father named David who had been in prison for 3 years and watched his twin sons go from babies to toddlers through video calls. Denzel remembered with pride. David felt like he was missing everything important and that his boys would never really know him as their father. David learned to use his limited communication time to create meaningful rituals that made him a real presence in his children's daily lives despite his physical absence. David started recording himself, reading bedtime stories that his wife could play for the boys every night, Denzel explained. He learned their favorite songs and would sing to them over the phone. By the time David was released, his sons ran into his arms like he had never been gone because he had maintained a real relationship with them. The most profound transformations happened when incarcerated fathers realized that their mistakes didn't disqualify them from being loving parents, and that maintaining strong relationships with their children could actually motivate them to stay out of prison after release. Tonight's appearance on The Tonight Show was supposed to focus on Denzel's latest film and his thoughts on legacy and the roles that had defined his career. Jimmy had planned to discuss his approach to choosing meaningful characters and his philosophy about using his platform responsibly. The interview had started with Denzel's characteristic dignity and thoughtfulness. He had shared insights about his recent work, discussed his approach to portraying complex characters, and demonstrated the moral authority that had made him such a respected figure. But when Jimmy asked about what fatherhood had taught Denzel about responsibility and whether his own childhood experiences had influenced his commitment to mentoring others, something shifted in his expression. "You know, Jimmy," Denzel said, his distinctive voice taking on unusual weight, "growing up with a father who was physically present but emotionally absent taught me how crucial it is for men to stay connected to their children, and that lesson led me to work with fathers who want to stay connected but are separated by prison walls." The audience grew completely silent, sensing that Denzel was moving into territory that was more personal and serious than his usual reflections on fatherhood and mentorship. "That sounds like you have some very direct experience working with incarcerated fathers," Jimmy said with genuine respect and curiosity. Denzel was quiet for a moment, his powerful presence softened by visible emotion. "I do. For 9 years, I've been going into prisons to teach fathers how to maintain meaningful relationships with their children from behind bars. Men who love their kids but don't know how to be good fathers when they're incarcerated." The studio was completely focused on Denzel's words now, the energy shifting from entertainment to something much more profound than anyone had expected. "Denzel, it sounds like you're providing parenting education to men in prison," Jimmy said softly. Denzel's eyes filled with tears, a particularly powerful sight coming from someone known for his emotional strength and commanding presence. "I've been teaching parenting skills to 117 incarcerated fathers who are trying to maintain relationships with their children despite being in prison, men who made mistakes but don't want their children to pay the price for those failures." The audience was completely silent now, witnessing a side of Denzel Washington that transcended his celebrity. The profound empathy of someone who had transformed his own father wound into a mission to help other men avoid passing that pain to their children. "Jimmy, can I tell you about something that taught me what real fatherhood means?" Denzel asked, his voice growing stronger despite his tears. Please, Jimmy replied, clearly understanding that something extraordinary was being shared. Denzel took a deep breath and spoke directly to the camera. I teach incarcerated fathers how to parent from prison through my Fathers Behind Bars program. 117 men over 9 years who are learning that making mistakes doesn't disqualify them from being loving fathers to their children. Jimmy's expression changed completely. You're personally going into prisons to teach men how to be fathers? I'm helping fathers understand that physical separation doesn't have to mean emotional abandonment, Denzel replied with conviction. These men love their children and want to be good fathers, but they need to learn how to maintain meaningful relationships despite being incarcerated. Tears were streaming down Jimmy's face. Can you tell us about one of these fathers? Marcus was serving 5 years for drug charges and was terrified that his 4-year-old daughter would forget him, Denzel said tenderly. His little girl had started calling another man daddy, and Marcus felt like he was losing her more every day. Denzel gathered himself to continue. I taught Marcus how to be present for his daughter, even from prison, how to help with bedtime routines over the phone, how to participate in her daily life through letters and calls. When Marcus was released, his daughter ran into his arms because he had never really left her life. How has this work changed your understanding of fatherhood? Jimmy asked through his tears. It taught me that being a good father isn't about being perfect. It's about being present in whatever ways you can, Denzel replied with wisdom. These men showed me that love finds a way to reach children even through prison walls, and that redemption is possible for men who commit to being better fathers. The audience was openly emotional, many people crying as they witnessed this revelation about Denzel's private work helping incarcerated fathers maintain relationships with their children. As the segment concluded, the entire studio audience rose in sustained applause that lasted over 7 minutes, but it wasn't just appreciation for a performance, it was recognition of grace extended to the forgotten. Final engagement hook. If this story about Denzel's secret prison mission moved you like it moved everyone in that studio, hit that subscribe button, because we're uncovering more hidden celebrity stories that will restore your faith in humanity. These are the stories that never make headlines, but show what these stars are really doing. When cameras aren't rolling, and trust me, you need to see what other legends are secretly doing to heal broken families. Denzel's revelation became one of The Tonight Show's most impactful segments, sparking conversations about parental incarceration, the importance of maintaining family bonds during imprisonment, and the possibility of redemption for men who commit to breaking cycles of father absence. Most importantly, Denzel's disclosure had shown that sometimes the most important role an actor can play is not on screen, but in prison visiting rooms where broken men learn that their mistakes don't disqualify them from being loving fathers, proving that true strength lies not in never falling, but in helping others rise after they've fallen.